We're going to be looking at IELTS writing today. We're going to be looking at IELTS grammar. I want to teach you some important guidelines, okay? Some important guidelines that you need to keep in mind for a good grammar score. And this is very, very important for so many reasons, okay? Number one, your grammar determines your writing score. Your grammar has a strong influence on your writing score. Grammar alone accounts for 25% of your score in IELTS writing. Grammar will be used to assess your task 2 essay. Grammar will be used to assess your task 1 report. For those of you who are doing IELTS general, grammar will be used to assess your task 1 letter. So your grammar has to be top notch. In constructing your sentences, you need to ensure that what? You need to ensure that grammar errors are as few as possible. Okay? So your writing score depends on it. The examiners will not understand your points if your grammar is poor. You understand? If your grammar is poor or if it is weak, if there are too many grammar mistakes, the examiners will not understand your writing and your score will be low. Okay, grammar also affects your speaking score because grammar is one of the criteria that will be used to assess your speaking. Okay, just like you have in writing, grammar is one of the criteria used to assess your writing. Grammar is also one of the criteria that will be used to assess your what? Your speaking. So by the time you combine those two aspects, writing and speaking, that tells you that what? Your overall score in IELTS is dependent a lot on grammar. Okay? Reading and listening are also affected by grammar because if your grammar is weak, if your grammar is poor, you are going to struggle with picking the correct answers, especially when it comes to gap filling questions in IELTS reading and IELTS listening. Okay? So you need to work on what? Improving your grammar. And how do you work on improving your grammar? There are two major things to do to improve your grammar, or let's say maybe three things, okay? Number one is to pay close attention to grammar lessons like this, like what I'm teaching now. Pay close attention to the rules of grammar as I explain them. I'm going to explain them and I'm going to give examples, okay? Pay close attention and learn. Number two is to practice lots of grammar quizzes. Okay? Practice lots of grammar quizzes. And after doing those quizzes, take the time to do self-correction. Okay? And learn from your mistakes. Go through the questions that you got wrong and learn from your mistakes. That's number two. Number three is to study model essays that have been written by Band 8 and Band 9 candidates. Learn how they construct sentences. You understand? When you study model essays, you get familiar with how qualitative sentences should sound. There's a way good grammar sounds, okay? And the only way you can get yourself attuned to how good grammar sounds is to expose yourself to high quality essays, reports, and letters. Band 8 essays and Band 9 essays. Band 8 reports and Band 9 reports. Do you understand? So these are things that you can do to what? To boost your grammar skills. Okay? But then let's look at it from this angle. What are the things that make a sentence qualitative? Okay? Or what are the qualities of a good sentence? There are 8 of them. Number one, a good sentence must be complete. A good sentence must not be what? Must not be fragmentary. It must not be incomplete. A good sentence must convey a complete thought. That's number one. Number two, a good sentence must be well punctuated. I'm going to be talking about this issue of punctuation extensively tonight. Okay? It must be well punctuated. You must use commas correctly. If that sentence requires a semicolon, the semicolon must be used correctly. Okay? If it requires, every sentence requires a period or a full stop. That dot that you see at the end of a sentence is what we call a full stop. Okay? So it must be well punctuated. Number three is that a good sentence must be concise. Concise means what? Straight to the point. It must be straightforward. It must not be awkward. It must not be unnecessarily verbose. In other words, if you are trying to pass across a point and you can use a few words to pass across that point, it's better you use few words. Your sentences should not be unnecessarily long. If your sentences are too long, there's a great chance that there will be grammar mistakes in it. So you want to keep your sentences concise. You understand? I always like to use this as a guide. Any sentence longer than 30 words is too long. Okay? Keep that in mind as you are writing. Once you see that you are writing and then you see that you have written more than 30 words, just know that you're already writing a sentence that is too long. Find a way to break down that sentence into some 2 or 3 parts. Okay? So your sentences must be concise and straightforward. Number 4, your sentences must be logically connected to the sentence before it. A good sentence must be logically connected to the sentence before it or the sentence after it, or both, or to both sentence before and the sentence after. That's good cohesion. And for you to do that, for you to ensure this logical connection, you must learn to use cohesive tools proficiently. Cohesive tools are like conjunctions and pronouns that help to connect the subject, verb, or object of one sentence to another sentence that is close to it. So, logical connection is another very important quality of a good sentence. Okay? A good sentence must also demonstrate agreement. Agreement in the use of nouns, pronouns, and verbs. I'm going to be talking about subject-verb agreement later on. Very, very important. Okay? Agreement. Then you must use the right words. This one has more to do with vocabulary. You must use the right words in constructing your sentences. You must use the right words and you must spell correctly. You must spell correctly. Number 7, you must use the right tenses. Okay? Past tense, present tense, future tense. The different variants of those 3 tenses must be used at the right place. Okay? So you must use the right tenses. And then it must be free of other grammatical errors. Those are the qualities of a good sentence. And the objective of this lesson is to get you to understand how to construct qualitative sentences that meet with with these 8 let's call them 8 criteria. 8 criteria. Okay, hope you get my point. Now let's take those rules, those guidelines. Remember what I said at the beginning? I said that we want to look at guidelines for good grammar scores. Guidelines. So what are the guidelines? Let's take them one by one. Number 1 guideline that I want to give you is that in constructing your sentences, you must use the right verb tense. Okay? Verbs exist in 3 major tenses. We have present tense, we have past tense, and we have future tense. Okay? Now, those 3 major types of tenses, they have variants. Okay, they have variants, but I'm not going to even talk about the different variants now so that we are not going to spend too much time on this. We have so many things to cover. But we are going to focus on these 5 types of tenses. These are the common types of tenses that show up, common forms of tenses that will be necessary in your writing, in your IELTS writing, whether it is essay writing, task 2 essay writing, or you are doing task 1 report for IELTS academic, or you are writing a letter for IELTS general. Okay, these 5 forms of verb tenses will somehow show up somewhere. Now, present simple tense is perhaps the most common tense form that people use when we write. Okay, look at the example. In this organization, salaries increase every year. What is the meaning of present simple tense? You are basically describing something that happens all the time. The girls go to school at 7 a.m. every day. That's something that happens all the time. The girls go. That's present simple tense. Go, hit, fight. Okay? Present simple tense. What is the past tense of hit, E-A-T? Let me even ask. I want you guys to type in the chat box. What is the past tense of E-A-T? What is the past tense of it, E-A-T? Let me see who can tell me. It's a very simple question anyway. E-A-T. What is the past tense of this word, it? Past tense of heat. I've written the spelling now. Heat. Thank you. The past tense of it is ate. A-T-E. Het. So let's assume that I want to refer to something that happened yesterday night in terms of food. I will say that word. I ate shawarma yesterday night. I will not say I eat shawarma yesterday. But let's assume that this is something I eat every day. I will say that word. I eat shawarma every day. That's what present simple tense. Okay? So whenever you want to refer to something that happens all the time, you have to use what? Present simple tense. Okay? If you want to refer to something that happened in the past, you want to refer to a specific time in the past, maybe a specific year or a specific month in the past or a specific day in the past or a specific week in the past. It could even be a specific hour. For example, 10 o'clock this morning. Okay? You want to refer to something that happened in the past. That thing started and ended during that specific time. Then you have to use what? Past tense. Some people would expand this and say past simple tense. Okay? So this one, a good example of this is what you have in maybe line graph report or bar chart report or pie chart. If you see a bar chart or a pie chart report now, and then you are seeing 2005 on that chart, okay, what you are going to see is that what in 2005 salaries were increased across board. So let's say maybe in 2005 salary was 2,000 in January, but by June the salary was increased to 3,000. We can see the two figures on the pie charts. Okay, January 2005 salary was 2,000 naira. June 2005, salary was now 4,000 naira. What does that mean? You can say that what? In 2005, the salaries were what? Increased. Let's assume they are referring to the salaries of different workers. The salaries were increased. Okay, past tense. Okay, now another one is what we call past. Well, let me talk about present perfect first. Present perfect tense. Present perfect tense is used to describe something that started happening in the past and it has continued happening till now. That thing has not stopped. It is still happening till now. That's when we use what? Present perfect tense. So let's assume that somebody is working in a company now, and then the salary they've been paying that person has been increasing every year. Maybe the person started in 2020. In 2021, they increased salary. In 2022, they increased salary. In 2023, they increased salary. Okay? So how do we describe that? We say that what? Since 2020, the salaries have what? Increased. Or we can say the salaries have been increasing. Have. H-A-V-E. That's the word. That's the key word used to convey what? Present perfect tense. Okay? So have increased. Or we can say have been increasing. So because we have a plural word here, I'll still talk about this later on. Salaries, plural. Then the verb to use, the auxiliary verb to use is going to be what? Have, H-A-V. But if it's a singular word like salary, then we are going to use as. The salary has increased. Okay? Now, the next one is past past perfect tense. What is past perfect tense? Past perfect tense is used to describe something that started happening in the past, and then it occurred for a period of time in the past and then ended in the past. So if something started happening in maybe 2005, and then that thing continued throughout 2005, and then continued throughout 2006, continued throughout 2007, and then 2008, and then it stopped in 2009, and you want to describe that thing that happened from 2005 till 2009, what you are going to use, the tense you are going to use is what? Past perfect tense. Okay, so look at this example here. Before the government introduced the tax, consumption levels had risen. HAD, that is the key word that we use to convey past perfect tense. Had risen, HAD, had. Okay, so had risen, that means that what? Maybe for 5 years, consumption level increased for 5 years. And then what happened? The government now introduced tax. So you want to describe something that you want to describe what happened before that tax was introduced. The tense you are going to use is what? Past perfect tense. And then we have future tense. Usually for future tense, we use the word will. Will is usually used when it comes to what? Future tense. So you must learn to use the right tenses whenever you are what? Whenever you are writing your word, you are writing your sentences. Okay? Now, let's look at the second point. Auxiliary verbs. Okay? Auxiliary verbs, another word for auxiliary verbs is helping verbs. And these are the common auxiliary verbs that we have in English writing. Have, has. Have and has are they usually do the same job. They are usually used for what? Present perfect tense. Have is the plural version. Has is the singular version. Had, that's for what? Past perfect. Are, that's what? This is for present tense, present simple tense. Okay, are is present simple tense. Where is for past tense. Is present simple tense. Is the singular version of what? Her. WERE has a singular version. Who can tell me? Let me see who can tell me. What is the singular version of WERE? Where? If I say the boys were sleeping and I want to say the boy, what is the word I will use instead of using were? The boys were sleeping. But I don't want to say boys, I want to say boy. The boy dash sleeping. What is going to be the word? That is the singular version of what? WERE. Thank you. The boy was sleeping. That is the correct answer. The boy was. So was is the past tense of is. Okay? Was is the past tense of is. Both of them are singular. Where, WERE, is the past tense of ARE. Please don't confuse WERE and WHERE. WHERE is where. That's referring to location. Okay? WHERE is what? Is referring to a what? It's referring to a location. WHERE, where? Okay, where did you keep my key? My computer keyboard is messing up, pressing E twice. So where, don't mix up where with what? Where. Okay, don't mix, a lot of people mix up those two words. Please don't. All right. So these auxiliary verbs must be used correctly. Look at these examples I've posted here, all these plenty examples. The committee has completed. Can you see that? The committee, this is a singular word. Committee is referring to what? One committee. Even though the committee is made up of many people, that committee works as a unit, a singular unit. The committee has completed its review. Can you see? As, that's the singular auxiliary verb. If I change this thing to students, I'll say that word. The students have completed their exams. Can you see that? Auxiliary verbs must be used correctly. Look at the next yellow example. Prior to the intervention, the majority of test scores had. What tense is this? Let me see who has been following me so far. This number 3 sentence here. Prior to the intervention, the majority of the test scores had remained stagnant for 3 consecutive years. What tense is HAD? Who remembers what I said about HAD? Prior to the text to the intervention, the majority of what test scores had. In other words, we are describing something that started happening in the past and it stopped happening in the past. That's what? Past perfect tense. Thank you. Past perfect tense. That's correct. That's the answer. Past perfect tense. Okay? Somebody says, past perfect tense and past tense is not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. Don't mix it up. Okay? They are two different things. Past perfect tense is different from what? Past tense. Anytime we say past tense, generally we are referring to past simple tense. In other words, you are lumping up a whole period of time. Okay? You are not referring to the breaks in that period. So, for example, if I want to refer to 2020, I will say that word. There was COVID lockdown in 2020. I'm referring to something that happened over a period of time in 2020. I just generalized it and I used past tense. Was past tense. COVID lockdown in 2020. Do you understand? But if I want to refer to something that started happening maybe in February 2020 and then continued until June when something now happened and stopped that thing that started happening in February, I'm going to use what? Past perfect tense. You see, English is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, look at this next one. The necessary funds are being. This word here is a word that is used to describe something that is currently ongoing. Something that is what? That is currently ongoing. Look at this example here. A new airport is currently being constructed. Okay, so if you are writing a report, let's say you have a process chart report now, and then on that report, you are seeing a place where they wrote that something is currently going on. Something is currently going on. That's when you can use this word, B-E-I-N-G. B-E-I, that's when you can use this word. But if you cannot see a specific part of that process chart labeled that, okay, this thing is going on, or you cannot see a specific part of the map labeled as this thing is going on, then you cannot use this word being. You cannot use this tense. The tense to use in that case is what? Present simple tense. The oranges are transported to the processing plant where they are washed. After washing, they are transferred to the extractor machine. Some people will say they are being transferred to the extractor machine. No, that's wrong. That's not the correct tense. The correct tense is what? They are transferred to the extractor machine. We use present simple tense. Okay? So auxiliary verbs must be used correctly. Let's look at another guideline. There are about 9 guidelines I'm going to give. So I want you guys to be patient with me. Modal verbs. So aside from auxiliary verbs, have, has, had, have, were, is, been, we also have modal verbs. What are the modal verbs? The common ones that we use in IELTS writing. Will, would, can, would, may, must. Those are the what? Those are the common modal verbs. Modal verbs basically modify the main verb of a sentence. Okay, so look at it here. Further investments in digital infrastructure will. So anytime you want to refer to an event that is certainly going to happen. You are 100% sure that it will happen. You are going to use the word will. Okay? But if you are not sure that the event will happen, you are not sure, there is a chance, likelihood that that thing will not happen, then you use the word would. Please don't mix up the two. I see people mix up these two things. They want to refer to something that is definitely going to happen. They will not use the word would. Please don't make that mistake. Look at this example here. Look at it. If the study were repeated, can you see that this thing, we don't know yet? If is if. Compared to this first example where they wrote, okay, further investment, this first example, there's nothing like if there. The thing is guaranteed, okay? Now, this one says, if the study were repeated, the results would, can you see that? Likely, in other words, we are not sure, likely. The results would likely show a what? A significant increase in data volatility. Can you see that? Modal verbs, would. Look at the next example to show the use of can. Renewable energy sources can provide. Can means what? This thing has the capacity, capability, ability. That ability is sure. Can is similar to will. Will is usually used to refer to events. Can is used to refer to ability. Okay? Renewable energy sources can provide a viable alternative to what? Conventional fossil fuels. Look at the one for could. Addressing income inequality could alleviate social unrest, but the political will is often lacking. Can you see that could is referring to what? Something that it can happen, but we are not sure. There's no certainty. That's when you use the word could. Hope you are getting this point, everybody. Cool. That's when we use the word could. Then, next one. Given the historical data, the inflation rates may exceed 5%. May. What is the meaning of may? May means that what? That thing is not likely. Not likely. And then the other one is must. That one is very likely, very certain. In fact, must generally is used to refer to something that is what? Compulsory. So what are you seeing here, ladies and gentlemen? Must, can, and will. They are used to refer to things that are very certain. Used to describe events that are certain, that are sure. Whereas would, could, and may, they are used to refer to things that are not very, very sure. Not very, very certain. Okay? Hope you get my point. Let's go on. Let's look at the next guideline. Let's look at the next guideline. Subject-verb agreement. This is also very, very important. A lot of people make mistakes in this area. Subject-verb agreement. Singular subject. Now, every sentence in English writing has a subject. Every sentence has a verb. Those two are compulsory. Most times, you're going to see an object. Okay? You're going to see an object. Subject, verb, object. Subject, verb, object. Okay? Now, singular, if a sentence has a singular subject, then that subject must be connected to a singular verb. If the sentence has a plural subject, then that subject must be connected to a what? Plural verb. Okay? That is the rule of what? Subject-verb agreement. Okay? Now look at this example. Renewable energy sources, plural, are plural. Can you see that? Becoming widely used in many parts of the world. So, renewable energy sources are what? Are becoming widely used. A-R-E, that is the plural verb that is connected to the word, to the plural subject. Okay? The plural verb connected to the plural subject. So the plural verb is what? A-R-E. Then the subject is what? Sources, renewable energy sources. That means you are referring to many sources, two or more sources. Look at next example. The primary advantage, can you see that? That's one advantage. The primary advantage of renewable energy sources is, so this IS is not connected to renewable energy sources. No, it's connected to what? Primary advantage. This part that says what? Of renewable energy sources is just a modifier to show that what this is what we are referring to. Okay? So I can as well say that word. I can rephrase this sentence and say that word. Their primary advantage is their minimal impact on the environment. Can you see that it makes sense? Their primary advantage is their minimal. So, but then let's read it the way it is in this example. The primary advantage of renewable energy sources is their. So this primary advantage is the subject of this verb is. Okay? Look at another one. The primary advantage of renewable energy sources, which are, now look at this place here, which are ARE. This ARE is a verb and is a plural verb. What is it connected to? It is connected to renewable energy sources. Because this thing here, which are, is a relative clause that qualifies renewable energy sources. We call it relative clause. Anytime you see which in front of maybe a clause or a sentence, most likely that clause is a relative clause. It usually acts as an adjective. That's what relative clauses do. They act as adjectives or adverbs. They modify a noun. So in this case now, renewable energy sources is modified by this clause that says which are becoming cheaper to produce. In other words, renewable energy sources are becoming cheaper to produce. Can you see that? And then we now continue the sentence. This is, what is the subject of this is? This is a verb. The subject of this is what? Advantage, primary advantage, singular, primary advantage. So subject-verb agreement, these are things you must what? You must ensure that you maintain whenever you are constructing your sentences. Okay? Now let's go to the next one. Punctuation. That's another one I want to emphasize. Now, when it comes to punctuations, there are three major punctuations that you must learn to use very well when it comes to IELTS writing. Number one is comma. Number two is semicolon. And number three is colon. Okay? There are 5 guidelines that I'm going to recommend. Okay? 5 rules that will guide the use of commas whenever you are writing. Number one is what? We use commas in a list. Whenever you are writing a list of items, okay, we use commas. Look at the example. The primary causes of urban congestion include, can you see this plural word here? Primary causes. Can you see the plural word? That means that I must mention 2 or 3 or 4 things that are causing urban congestion. That's part of what? That's part of cohesion. The primary causes of urban congestion include what? Increased car ownership, comma, inadequate public transport, comma, and poor road planning. Can you see that? That's what? Use of commas in a list. Look at the other example. This one is more common in task 1 academic. The instruments used are piano, trumpet, bagpipes. Can you see commas after each item on the list? Piano, comma, trumpet, comma, bagpipe, comma, cello, comma, and what? Accordion. So we use commas in a list. Number 2, we use commas at the end of introductory words, introductory phrases, or introductory clauses. Okay? Look at the example of introductory word here. Furthermore. Okay? Furthermore. Another example of introductory word is what? However. Another example is nevertheless. Introductory phrases. In conclusion. For example. For instance. Despite this. So after all those words or phrases, there must be a comma. There must be a comma. Look at this second example. It's an introductory clause. In addition to restructuring the management team, comma, the company also plans to outsource its what? IT services. Can you see that? Use of commas. At the end of what? Introductory words, phrases, or clauses. The third rule for comma use is what? Whenever you are constructing a compound sentence. Okay? I'm going to talk about the three types of sentence structures very soon. We have we have simple sentence, we have compound sentence, we have complex sentence. In fact, there are four of them. We have compound complex sentence. I'll talk about those ones later on. But let's come back to this number three. Whenever you are forming a compound sentence, you are going to need to combine two um two simple sentences or two independent clauses. And you're going to combine them using a coordinating conjunction. Example of coordinating conjunction is FOR, for. Another example is and. Another example is BUT, but. Those are coordinating conjunctions. We call them fan voice conjunction. F stands for, A stands for and, N stands for nor, NOR. B stands for BUT, O stands for OR, or Y stands for YET, yet, and then S stands for SO. So if you look at this sentence here, option example A, the initial survey reports showed a strong correlation, comma, can you see? But more extensive longitudinal studies are needed to confirm the hypothesis. Can you see that? Use of commas. Use of commas. Look at the second example. Education is vital for economic growth, comma. So governments must increase funding for what? Vocational training. Can you see that? Use of commas. Whenever a word, whenever a fan voice conjunction connects two independent clauses. Okay? Rule number 4 is that what? Whenever we are forming a complex sentence and the dependent clause shows up at the beginning of that complex sentence, then there must be a comma after that dependent clause. Look at this example here. Although the policy was designed to reduce poverty, comma, it led to an unexpected rise in income inequality. This is what we call a complex sentence. A complex sentence usually contains what we call a subordinating conjunction. Somebody says all these big words that you are calling. How am I going to remember all of them? That's why we are teaching you this class, okay? You need to go over this recording again so that you can get a hold of these things. And then you practice with simple exercises. Practice with quizzes. It's going to help you to what? It's going to help you to reinforce all the things I'm talking about. Okay? In fact, let's do one quick exercise now. Everybody, I want you to construct a sentence using the word although. Okay? I want you to construct a sentence. Use the word although. This is it. So let's just do a quick exercise now. Let's do a quick exercise. Construct a sentence using the word although. Construct a sentence using the word although. In writing your sentence, I want this although, let it be at the beginning of the sentence. Okay? If you put it anywhere else, you have written the wrong thing. Just forget you have written the wrong thing. Your although must be at the beginning. That's what I want for this exercise I'm giving you. Okay? So I want you to construct a sentence using the word although. Quick exercise for you, quick classwork for everybody. Yes, I'm waiting. I want you to type your sentence in the Zoom chat so that I would look at it and then make corrections. Okay. I can see some responses. Let's check out the responses. All right, I like this. Somebody says, although he is a boy, he enjoys wearing female dresses. So look at it here. Let me post it. Let me post it. Okay. So that's what somebody wrote. Although he is a boy, he enjoys wearing female dresses. Another person says, although Nigeria is my country, I have decided to study in Sweden. Very good. That's a very good one. I have decided. I like that. Another person says, although there wasn't much time left, but the teacher still gave the test. Yes, now I'm going to make a correction here. This is a mistake that I noticed in some people's writing. Okay, I'm going to make the correction very soon. Let me post this. Let me post the remaining, and then I'm going to make corrections. So another person says, although I do not like public transport, but I have to use it. But I have to use it this morning because my car breaks down. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to make correction on this too. This is why I like it when people give feedback. Let me be sure that you guys are getting the point. Another person says, although I'm weak. You see, I'm going to make corrections. Oh. There are two mistakes in this one now that this person has written. Two mistakes. In fact, three mistakes. All right, let's talk about all these sentences, because you see this word although is one conjunction that a lot of people misuse. Is perhaps the most misused conjunction in IELTS writing amongst IELTS candidates. To me, it's like the most misused. Okay, another person has dropped another response. Let me just copy this one and then that will be all. Another person says, look at what another person wrote here. Let me post it here. So this is another person's response. Now let's take them one by one. This is what I asked you to do. Construct a sentence using the words although. So look at this first one, everybody. Although she came late to work, but this but is not necessary. It's not necessary. Anytime you use the word although in a sentence, you don't need to put but anywhere. You don't need to put but in that sentence. The two of them are conjunctions. Okay? So it's either you use one or the other. Don't use the two of them in the same sentence. Okay? So it's either I say she came late to work, but the ward manager gave her money. That makes sense. Or I say that although she came late to work, the ward manager gave her money. That's correct. You cannot use the two, although and but, together in the same sentence. It's wrong. I can see it here too. Although there wasn't much time left, but the teacher still gave the test. That's wrong. BUT is not necessary here. BUT should be removed. Okay, so we should have what? Although there wasn't much time left, the teacher still gave a test. Correct. Look at the next one. Although I do not like public transport, but I have to use it this morning. No. Although I do not like public transport, I have to use it this morning. Okay. Now, assuming that sentence stops there, that would have been a very good sentence. But then this person now adds another error. Because my car breaks down. What does that mean? What is the meaning of my car breaks down? There's a tense error here. Who can help me correct this tense error? Let me see. Let me see who followed what I said about tenses earlier on. Remember what this person said. This person is referring to something that happened this morning. Okay? This person is referring to something that happened this morning. Okay? So what should be the correction for this part that says, because my car breaks down? Thank you. Because my car broke down. That's what it should be. So the correction for the entire sentence is going to be what? It's going to be, although I do not like public transport, I have to use it this morning because my car broke down. You see that sentence there is what we call compound complex sentence. Compound complex sentence. That sentence has 3 clauses. Any sentence that has 3 clauses is a compound complex sentence. Okay? Look at the next one. Although, can you see error here? This person did not write I. Although I, that's error 1. Error 2 is that a comma is not needed after although. Look at all the examples I've been treating since morning. There's nothing like comma after this although. Nothing like comma here. Nothing like comma here. Nothing like comma here. Nothing like comma here. So I don't know why the comma is here. This comma is not needed. You don't put a comma after although. It doesn't show up anywhere if the although is at the beginning of a sentence. No. The comma should show up at the end of the clause. Although Nigeria is my country, that clause has ended. Although there wasn't much time left, that clause has ended. Okay? So this thing should be what? Although I am weak. The comma should be here. So we call this thing misplaced comma. Although I am weak, comma, remove the but. I've already talked about this. I will attend the party. Although I am weak, I will do what? I will attend the party. Okay, look at the next one. Although the girl has never seen the 4 walls of a school, comma, she is so brilliant. Very good. That's a very good example. Very good example. Okay, so please, you must learn to use this word correctly anytime you are, use although correctly whenever you are constructing a word, a complex sentence or a compound complex sentence. So that's what another comma rule. The last comma rule is to mark off non-essential elements in a sentence. We use commas to mark off non-essential elements or appositives in a sentence. Okay? And you can see examples here. Some candidates know how to write, some candidates know how to do this number 5 very well. Some people don't. Okay? So if you are not really good at it, don't stress yourself. There are other areas where you can focus on. Okay, but look at it. Look at the example here. The new director, comma, a former executive from the rival firm, comma, has promised significant structural reforms. Look at this part here. This part that says a former executive from the rival firm. That is what we call non-essential element, or we can also call it non-restrictive clause. If I remove that part and I read the sentence that is left, it will make sense. Look at it. The new director has promised significant structural reforms. It makes sense. The new director has promised significant structural reforms. You can see it makes sense. It makes complete sense. So, but then we now want to provide extra information about the new director. That's why we now introduce this non-restrictive clause. A former executive from the rival firm. Okay? Then the next one says, the recent study on youth unemployment, comma, which included data from 10 European nations. This is another word. This is another non-restrictive word, element. Okay, non-restrictive element or non-essential element. So it says that word. The recent study on youth unemployment suggested novel solutions. Can you see that? If I skip these non-essential elements, the sentence will make sense. That's why we mark it off with a comma. Okay, so we can use a comma for this thing, this number 5 here. We can either use a comma at the beginning of the non-restrictive element and put another comma at the end, or we can use a dash. This is one way you can use dash in your IELTS writing. Put a dash at the beginning of the non-restrictive element and then put a dash at the end. Okay? So that's another way to punctuate. So commas must be used correctly. Somebody is asking a question. Somebody says, what of although and what of even though, you know, they will say that even though she loves her, even though, is similar to although. You understand now? But generally, although is more commonly used whenever you are writing essays, whenever you are writing academic essays, it's more advisable to use although. Okay, even though it's more of an informal thing whenever you are talking. But when it comes to writing academic materials, essays, task two essays, it's more advisable to use although. I hope you get my point. All right, let's look at another set of punctuations. Semicolon and colon. Semicolon and colon. Semicolon use. There are two guidelines. Number one, we use semicolon to join independent clauses that present closely related information. So if you have two independent clauses in a sentence and the idea in the two clauses are related, the ideas are connected, in such cases, we can use a semicolon to connect them. Look at this example one. A, the environmental report was critical of the deforestation rate. Semicolon. What is this it referring to? It is referring to the environmental report. Okay? It projected irreversible damage within a decade. Okay? Look at the next example. The council rejected the proposal. However, what is this they referring to? It's referring to the council. Okay? They agreed to reconsider it next quarter. So semicolons are used to connect what? Independent clauses that present what? Related information. Another use of semicolon is when you are forming a complex list. Okay, look at the complex list here. Option A, example A, the panel consisted of experts from London, UK, semicolon, Paris, France, semicolon, and Berlin, Germany. Can you see the complex list? The name of a city and the country where that city is located. Then put a semicolon. Name of another city and the country where that city is located. Put a semicolon. And then Berlin, Germany. And then you end the sentence with a full stop. Okay, look at the next sentence. The final report detailed the project's 3 critical phases. Colon, I'm going to talk about colon later on. Colon, the data collection phase, comma, which took 6 months. That's phase 1. And then they now put a semicolon. And then they wrote the second phase. The initial analysis phase, comma, covering correlations and variables. And then put a semicolon. And the final synthesis and recommendation phase, comma, presented in June. This thing here is an example of what we call complex structures. We call it complex structures in IELTS writing. Complex structures. Whenever IELTS examiners see this and you do it correctly, that kind of thing can boost your grammar score. But if you do it wrongly and there's a mistake, there's going to be a problem. You are going to lose marks. So it's better you practice doing it. Okay? Let me give you one tip. This is one of the areas where AI can help. Okay? Let me show you something. Let me show you something. How to use one of the things I said I was going to highlight in this lesson is how to use AI to improve your writing skills. So let me take you to AI. The AI I'm going to use for this particular exercise is going to be Gemini. Okay? Let me share my my browser with you. So we're going to go to Gemini AI. Gemini AI. Okay. Can you guys see my browser? I hope you are seeing the browser. Let me know if you are seeing the Microsoft browser, Microsoft Edge. All right, very good. So this is Gemini AI. Now, look at it. I want this Gemini AI to teach me how to use semicolons. I want to improve my semicolon skills. So you see all the different aspects of grammar I'll be talking about. You can just pick one and say, okay, I want to master this part. So let's say I want to master semicolon. So this is what I'm going to tell Gemini. I say that word. I'll tell Gemini, give me 10 examples of always include this word, academic sentences that involve the use of semicolon. Can you see what I typed now? So you just press enter. You just press enter. And then it's going to give you examples. Okay? Look at it. Look at the first one. The committee reviewed 3 proposals. Can you see that? It gives us example. This is what you saw on my slide earlier on. Okay? Look at the next one. The initial findings are compelling. However, further research is necessary. Can you see? Academic, semicolon. Look at the third one. Qualitative analysis revealed recurring themes in participants' narratives. Semicolon. Specifically, isolation. So this thing now, they are mentioning the recurring themes. The recurring themes. That's what they are referring to here. Isolation is one of the recurring themes. Anxiety is another one. And a desire for better communication. And then they said that those things were predominant. So you see, it's giving me examples of what? Sentences that involve what? Semicolon. Look at number 4. The experimental design included several controls. Colon. Now he wants to give us a list of the controls. Temperature was kept constant. Semicolon. Humidity levels were monitored hourly. Semicolon. And the light source remained uniform throughout the duration. Full stop. 3 things that they used as controls. Can you see that? Number 5. Many scholars argue for post-structuralist approach. Others conversely maintain that, can you see semicolon before writing others? Others conversely maintain. What is the meaning of conversely? Conversely means that word they are on the opposite, they are of the opposite view. They are of an opposing view, okay? They have an opposing view. Others conversely maintain that traditional Marxist theory still provides the most robust framework. So you see, he has given me examples. I can do the same thing for what's it called now? For although I would say, okay, give me 10 examples of academic sentences that involve the use of the word although. Now, let me add something else to it. Restrict your examples to healthcare related scenarios. I only want sentences that have to do with healthcare. That's what I want. Okay? Can you see? I've given the instruction. Press enter. It's going to give me examples now. Look at it. Although the new chemotherapy regimen showed promising results, comma, can you see comma? The high incidence of severe adverse effects warrants further safety assessment. Can you see? Look at the next sentence. The patient was discharged after a brief stay. Although follow-up monitoring for potential post-surgical complications is still strongly recommended. Can you see that? Sentence construction. Appropriate use of what? Appropriate use of although. Okay? So you see that in some cases they put although at the beginning. In some cases they put it in the middle. But whatever the case, there's usually always a word, a comma, to show that, okay, here we have what? We have 2 clauses that are being joined together by a word, by a conjunction called although. That's proper word, proper sentence constructions. Or sorry, proper sentence construction. Hope you get my point. Let's go back to our PDF file. So semicolons must be used correctly. Colon, last one. The last one under punctuation. A colon is used to introduce a list of items. Colon, what do we use it for? To introduce a list of what? Items. So look at the first example. We found 3 issues, colon, and then I mentioned the issues: high cost, comma, low demand, comma, and poor quality. And then we'll put a full stop there. Okay? Look at the second example. The report concluded 3 things, colon. The budget was insufficient, comma, the deadlines were missed, the deadline was missed, the deadline was missed, and the project failed. Can you see that? Number 3, the countries are as follows, colon, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Egypt, and Tanzania. This number 3 is very common in task 1 writing, academic task 1 writing. Then we also use colon to introduce an explanation. Okay, if you want to give further explanation of something or you want to expatiate further, you can use a colon. Look at the example here. The findings were clear. What is the finding? The new policy had failed to meet its primary objectives. Look at the next one. Experts noted a significant discrepancy. The public health data contradicted the government's official statistics. So this is the discrepancy. They want to mention the discrepancy, so we have to put a word. We have to put a colon. So punctuation must be done accurately in your word, in your writing. Then we have conjunctions. We have different types of conjunctions that must be used correctly. Some conjunctions are used to sequence points. First of all, firstly. People use that a lot. Very good at the beginning. And then you put a comma. If you notice all these conjunctions, usually there will be a comma after them. There will be, because they are actually what? Introductory words or introductory phrases. Okay? So we have conjunctions that are used to show cause and effect relationships. Example is consequently. Another example is as a result. Another example is therefore. There should be E here, therefore. F-O-R-E. And conjunctions can also be used to add information or add a point. So if I'm writing my paragraph 2 in my essay now, I've written my first point. I now want to write a second point inside that same paragraph 2. What will I use? I can use moreover, or I can use in addition, or I can use furthermore. That's what, to add information. Then we have conjunctions that are used to compare. So we can use words like similarly, likewise, rather than. Then we have conjunctions to show contrast. However, conversely, nevertheless. There's another one, in contrast. In contrast. Okay? Then we have conjunctions that are used to show emphasis. More importantly, especially, above all. Okay? So many different types of conjunctions that you must learn to use proficiently. Some are used to conclude, some are used to present examples, some to present conditions. That's when you have words like if, only. You see that if is showing up a lot here. Even if, only if, except if. Okay? Then we have conjunctions to present the time or the order of events. This one shows up a lot when it comes to process chart reports. When, at first, in the beginning, later, then, after, meanwhile, before. Okay? Those are conjunctions to what? To illustrate the order in which something happens. Then we have some conjunctions used to introduce choice or options. Alternatively, rather, either with or. These two are used together. Either and or, they are used together. Okay? Whether and or, then preferably. This E should not be there. Preferably. 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 That's the spelling. So conjunctions, that's another aspect of what? Another aspect of grammar. Then another aspect of grammar is articles. Use of articles. There are 3 major types of articles in English writing. The definite article, THE. The indefinite articles, there are two of them, a and an, and then zero article. Zero article means don't use anything. Don't use the, don't use a, don't use an. That's the meaning of zero article. So if I write a sentence, I say, poverty is a complex issue requiring global cooperation and sustained effort. Aha, that's a perfect sentence. I cannot say that the poverty is a complex issue. The which poverty? If you say the poverty, we are going. The next question they will ask you is which poverty are you talking about? Poverty is a general thing, and that's what you see here. We use zero article whenever you are referring to a word, a general noun, general, something that is general, that affects many people, that is common. Poverty is a complex issue requiring words. Can you see that this place too? There's no article there. We cannot say requiring the global population. You cannot say requiring a global. No, just say requiring global population, global cooperation. Requiring global what? Requiring global cooperation. Hope you get the gist. So no, there are some situations where you will not need to use any article. What are those situations? Whenever you are referring to plural, general plural nouns like poverty, or whenever you are referring to abstract, uncountable nouns like information, health, poverty, education, happiness. Okay? Then we have definite article, the. We use definite article whenever we are referring to a specific noun. A specific noun that has been mentioned before, or a unique noun. Okay, look at examples here. The most important finding of the study. The study. You are referring to a particular study. Look at the next one there. The government. Which government? Probably you are referring to the government of a country. The government introduced the new, can you see that? The new regulation. So there's a particular regulation if you are referring to. Okay? The sun, there's just one sun. The earth, there's just one earth. We know what you are referring to. Okay? And the entire solar system follow predictable laws of physics. So articles must be used correctly. Then we have indefinite article. A is used before consonant sound, words with consonant sounds. Han is used before words with what? Vowel sounds. And you can see examples here. A strong argument is required to justify such a drastic policy change. Look at the one for an. The report highlighted an unprecedented surge in online fraud. Can you say an? Articles. So ladies and gentlemen, articles must be what? Articles must be used correctly. Okay? So I said earlier on that what? We have different types of sentences. We have complex sentences, we have simple sentences, we have compound complex sentences. These are some examples of complex structures. Passive and active. Passive sentences must show up a lot in your writing. Okay, look at passive. When we say passive sentence, a passive sentence basically means that what? You are focusing on the word. The emphasis of that sentence is on the object. Okay, look at it here. To construct a passive sentence, the object of the action becomes the word, the focus or the emphasis of the sentence. Okay, look at the example. Global warming is worsened by deforestation. Another way to say it is that word, deforestation worsens the problem of global warming. This second one. So you see this second one, deforestation worsens the problem of global warming, is not, it should not be too common in your essay. The one that we want to see, the format that we want to see more often in your essay is what we call passive sentences. Passive form of writing. Global warming is worsened by what? Deforestation. So you must learn to construct passive sentences correctly. It's one of the complex structures that IELTS examiners look out for in your essays that will allow them to give you a good score. Now, let's do this quick exercise, everybody. Let's just do this quick exercise. This exercise, which of these two sentences is passive? Which one? The first one or the second one? Salaries were paid by the governor last week. The governor paid salaries last week. Which one of these two is passive? Is it the first one or the second one? Which one of the two is the passive form?
As you plug down, we could tell you say.
Which one of the two? Which one of the two is a passive sentence? Is it the first one, salaries were paid by the governor last week? Or is it the second one, the governor paid salaries last week? Which one is passive? Which one is passive voice? Who can tell me? Anybody? Anybody? Thank you. The correct answer should be what? The first one. Salaries were paid. Can you see that? Salaries were paid by the governor last week. Salaries were paid by the governor when? Last week. So the focus, the emphasis of this sentence is what? Is salaries. That's what makes it passive. And then this other one, parallel sentences. Parallel sentences are, I think I mentioned one earlier on. Look at another three more examples here. These are sentences that contain three or more short clauses that contain, or the three or more short clauses that possess similar verb forms. Look at the verb forms. Look at the first example. The study analyzed. What tense is this? This analyzed. What tense is it? Is it past tense or present tense or future tense or present continuous tense? What tense is analyzed? The study analyzed. That's past tense. Analyzed the initial data. Thank you. Past tense. The study analyzed the initial data. Look at the next word. Evaluated. Can you see also past tense? The long-term impact of the policy and concluded. Can you see another past tense? So that's what we call what? Parallel structures. Parallel structures. Look at another example. The government must put measures in place to establish fiscal stability. Establish. This is what? This is present simple tense. Okay? Or maybe based on this must, we can say it's probably referring to a future event. But then if we just focus on just the word, then it's going to be present simple tense. Establish, maintain, secure, same tense format. Now look at the third example, present continuous tense. Implementing strict environmental controls, regulating industrial emissions, and fostering green technology. Can you see that? Are crucial steps towards what? Mitigating climate change. That's parallel sentence. That's a parallel sentence. That's a parallel sentence. So parallel sentences must be constructed correctly. Again, you can use AI to show you examples of things like this. Just go to AI and just go and type that thing. I want you to give me 20 examples of parallel sentences. You can add and say, okay, restrict your examples to sentences within political context or sentences within environmental management context or sentences within career development context. You can further, limit the field you want it to focus on. Maybe you want it to focus on IT or you want it to focus on agriculture. It's going to give you examples. And many of the examples will actually be accurate. By the way, AI sometimes makes mistakes, but it's not very often. But then you can still learn one or two things from it, okay? So, complex structures must be used correctly. So, I think I've already addressed this part. But then let me just give you one final thing before we round up. After writing your essay, one of the things you should learn to do is to use AI to check grammar and vocabulary mistakes. Okay? And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to post one essay. Okay? I'm going to post one essay and you are going to see me do this thing. So I want you to also learn to do it because it's going to help you to improve your word. It's going to help you to improve your grammar skills. So after writing your essay, you just go to the AI and you just say, okay, you want AI to identify um, grammar mistakes. Let me check. Let me get one example of one essay now, and then I'm going to use that to illustrate this thing that I'm saying. I'm coming. Let me check for a nice essay. Let me check for a nice essay. All right, I've seen one. So here is an essay. Okay, let me stop sharing. And then let's share the page. Okay, so this is our AI here. Let me open a new chat. Okay. This is what you're going to type. I want you to read through my essay and identify, always put a figure, 10 grammar errors. Okay? For each error, explain, let's say briefly explain what is wrong and suggest corrections. Can you see what I've written here now? I want you to read through my essay and identify 10 grammar errors. For each error, briefly explain what is wrong and suggest corrections. So let's put corrections there. So here is my essay. So I'll put my essay now. I'll just paste the essay. So this is the essay. Okay. Let me remove this writing tags too. And then I'll press enter. I'll press enter. Okay, so look at it here. It gives me the breakdown. Look at it. Um, Look at it here. Error. Believe that it is the duty. So this is the opening sentence. Look at it here. Where is it now? We're going to need to check that. What's it called now? Look at it. A number of individuals believe that IT is missing. Can you see that? The AI has pointed it out. IT is missing. The missing the subject it. Can you see that? So that tells me that what I must pay closer attention next time I'm writing to make sure that what it doesn't disappear when I'm writing. Look at the next one. Surroundings. While others oppose this view, this is still the opening sentence. Look at it. While others oppose this view, arguing that it is the duty of residents. So that's the sentence it's referring to. Let's go and check. Run-on sentence, comma. So it's telling us that what? While should start a new sentence or be connected differently. Okay, so look at it here now. It says that word, while others oppose this view, comma, arguing that it is the duty of blah, blah, blah. So it gives us the what's it called? The corrections. Now, this thing here, let me do this. This thing actually sometimes looks better in what's it called? In ChatGPT. Let me post it inside ChatGPT and see what ChatGPT will give us. Copy. I'm showing you how to use AI to improve your grammar skills. So if we put it inside ChatGPT, let's see what it's going to give us in response. So this is our essay inside ChatGPT. All right. So I've given it the prompt. It's processing. I guess it's processing for me. Okay. So can you see that? Still the same format. So it's going to give you the mistakes. Okay. And then it's going to give you the word, the corrections. Give you the corrections. And then it's even going to give you the word, the explanation. Do you get my point? So, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this again. Let me point this out. Please don't use AI to write your essay. It's not going to help you prepare well for the exam. Okay? Don't use AI to write your essay. Instead, write the essay yourself. And then you can now tell AI to give you what? To give you some grammar, to go through that essay and identify grammar mistakes. That's going to help you better. Because on the exam day, you will not be able to use AI to write your essay. So what you need to do now is to what? Is to find a way to use AI to boost your writing skills. And this is one thing you can do that word. You can use AI to what? To improve your grammar, okay? To improve your word, to improve your vocabulary. So avoid using AI to write your essays. Rather, use it to identify and get corrections regarding your word, your grammar and vocabulary errors. I hope with these few points of mine, I have been able to convince you that what it is very easy to get a good score in IELTS, IELTS writing, IELTS grammar. Okay, so let's take one or two questions. I don't know. Does anybody have any question before we round up? Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question so far? Any question based on what we have discussed so far? Does anybody have any question? If you have any question, just drop your question in the Zoom chat. Let me see if I can take one or two questions. Okay, it seems there are no questions. So if there are no questions, I guess we'll wrap it up on that note. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you're going to put these things to work with your writing, and the quality of your writing will improve significantly. If anything comes to your mind, just feel free to drop a message in the WhatsApp group. I will attend to it as soon as I can. Thank you once again. Enjoy the rest of your evening.